snow-capped peaks of the Himalayan mountains, life for Mara and her daughter Lila had become a struggle for survival. Mara, a woman in her 30s, had once flourished in this land, her hands skilled at coaxing life from the fertile earth. But in recent years, seasons had betrayed her, and the reality of hunger gripped their small mountain community. As the winter lingered, the crops in the fields turned to husks, and the supply of food dwindled. The village had always been self-sufficient, but this particular winter was harsher than any in memory. Starvation hovered like a shadow over their small log cabin, a constant reminder of their desperation. Mara and Lila shared meager meals, often consisting of foraged herbs and stale bread. Each morning, the pair would rise before dawn, the cold biting at their skin, and venture into the mountains in search of roots, berries, or anything to stave off hunger. Lila, though still a child of 10, possessed a spirit that seemed, at times, unbreakable. Her heart danced more readily than the shadows that clawed at the edges of their existence. One particularly bitter morning, as Mara and Lila trekked the familiar path toward the old cherry tree that held so many memories, Lila's voice rang out, full of hope.
Mama, do you think the cherries will bloom this year?
Mara, weary from the cold and worry, forced a smile, though her heart was heavy.
I hope so, my love. The tree has seen many winters. It always finds a way, just like we do.
I can't see any blossoms, Mama.
Sometimes, we just need to wait, Mara replied softly.
The day passed with Lila gathering twigs for the fire while Mara foraged for anything that might be edible. They returned home empty-handed, save for a few small herbs and wildflowers. They cooked them together into a thin broth, the flavor meager yet comforting.
What if we plant a new garden? We could use the seeds from the herbs we found.
Mara thought for a moment.
That's a wonderful idea, Lila.
One evening, Mara noticed that Lila was quiet, her eyes cast down.
What troubles you, sweetheart?
Mama, what if the garden doesn't grow? What if we can't feed the others?
No matter what happens, we'll always have each other. That is our greatest strength. We will find a way.
Mara sketched out a small plot behind their cabin, carefully turning the soil and planting the seeds that Lila had collected. They watered the soil with well-worn buckets from a nearby stream, their laughter rising above the sound of rustling leaves. The act of planting felt like an expression of stubborn resilience against the unnerving grip of despair.
Look, Lila, our hard work is paying off.
As spring unfurled its colors, Mara and Lila's garden flourished into a vibrant patch of green. The vegetables grew taller, thickening with each passing day, but the threat of desperation hung over the village like a winter cloud. Parents grew weaker, and children grew more fragile as their hunger troubled their dreams. One afternoon, while tending to their garden, they heard knocking at their door. Mara wiped her hands on her apron before opening the door to find Old Man Elias, a respected elder of the village, standing there, his face lined with worry.
Mara, Lila, may I come in?
Of course, eldest Elias.
Mara replied, beckoning him inside. They offered him a seat by the fire, and Lila rushed to fetch a warm cup of herbal tea. Elias settled into the chair, eyeing the garden visible through the window with a mix of admiration and concern.
Wanted to talk to you about the community. The hunger has become too severe for many. We need help, but we don't know how to ask for it.
Mara's heart sank.
It's so hard when there's so little to go around, Elias. We've all worked so hard.
Perhaps we can share what we have. What if we came together? Everyone contributes what they can, no matter how little. Suppose we turn your garden into a communal effort?
Mara's eyes widened with hope.
We could invite everyone to pitch in. If we work together, we may be able to plant more and share the harvest.
The following days turned into a whirlwind of preparation as word spread through the village. Families gathered at Mara's garden, bringing seeds, tools, and an eagerness to work side by side. The garden transformed, becoming a hub of camaraderie and determination. Neighbors who once had barely spoken beyond polite greetings came together, laughing and sharing stories while tending to the soil. Children played nearby, collecting wildflowers and telling tales of fairies living among the trees. As hands worked the earth, hope blossomed like the first blooms of spring. Mara felt a renewed purpose, her spirit infused with strength from her neighbors. They shared knowledge, experienced through years of farming, and the garden flourished. Lila dashed through the rows of young plants, tending to those that needed extra care.
Look, Mama. The crop is sprouting.
Yes, sweetheart, we are building something beautiful together.
As the weeks rolled on, summer approached, ushering forth bountiful rains. The garden thrived under the sun, producing rich vegetables, herbs, and even a few fruits. They harvested with laughter, the joy echoing throughout the valley. A communal feast was planned, a gathering that would lift their spirits and unite them in celebration. On the day of the feast, villagers arrived bearing their contributions, arms loaded with fresh produce, baskets filled with bread, freshly caught fish, and wild berries. The fragrant aroma enveloped the air as villagers set up long tables beneath the old cherry tree, which had begun to bloom once more, its flowers swaying gently in the breeze. Lila helped her mother, her eyes sparkling with excitement as they arranged the colorful spread upon the tables. Mara looked around, taking in the sight of her neighbors sharing smiles, laughter, and food, and her heart swelled with gratitude and hope. When the feast began, Mara stood up to address the community.
Today, we celebrate not just the fruits of our labor but the strength we found in each other. In our darkest hours, we learned that we are never alone. Together, we can overcome even the toughest challenges.
Cheers erupted, echoing through the valley as people raised their glasses. They feasted until the sun began to set, the golden light casting a warmth over their faces. As months passed, Mara, Lila, and their community continued farming together. The cherry tree bore fruit in the late summer, reminiscent of times long forgotten. They would climb its branches, collecting cherries and laughing, overflowing with joy. Yet, with newfound abundance came deeper connections. Mara and her neighbors turned their communal efforts into gardens, enhancing the community's resilience and transforming the valley into a tapestry of lush greenery. One crisp autumn evening, as Lila and Mara reflected on their journey, Lila turned to her mother, her voice soft yet confident.
Mama, do you think the mountains will ever forget how we came together?
No, my love. The mountains witnessed our struggles, our courage, and our triumphs. They will remember the strength that flowed from our hearts when we chose to unite.
As they looked out over the valley bathed in the warm hues of sunset, Mara whispered a silent promise to the mountains, knowing that together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. In their hearts, they carried the truth that hope could flourish in even the harshest of places, nourished by love, community, and resilience. And in that moment, as day turned to night, the mountains themselves seemed to whisper back, echoing this